Hello, my name is Keith and I'm recently retired. Welcome to my brand new YouTube channel, which is cunningly called Recently Retired. I can say welcome to my YouTube channel because this is the first video I've ever made for it. Next time, I'll be able to say welcome back, I hope. But for the time being, welcome to the channel and I'll tell you what it's going to be about. Now, retirement is something that hopefully comes to us all. The alternative is not worth talking about. But it is something that you need to prepare for and accept and adopt the big changes that come with being retired. So what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to talk about the preparations that I made leading up to my retirement, which started in August of this year. So about, what is that, 4 months ago. So I've been retired just for a couple of months. And while it's fresh in my mind, I'm going to talk to you about how I got to this point, and then over time, what retirement's like and about living in retirement. I hope it'll be interesting. I hope it'll be informative, and it'll be good for those of you who are coming up to retirement. It'll be good for those of you who are perhaps freshly into retirement or not so freshly into retirement. And it'll just give some hints and tips and a good insight into how I'm doing it and how I'm getting on with it. Before I go any further, I'm just going to have a quick sip. The mug this time is what I call my Betty mug. You saw there that the picture was of a French bulldog and the salutation was bonjour. It's a mug that was bought for me by my son and daughter-in-law, whose dog Betty is. And really, it's one of my favorite mugs, and I like it for a lot of reasons, one of which being that Betty is a wonderful dog. But when they bought Betty, I said I wasn't too pleased because I didn't like flat-nosed dogs. I didn't like them at all. But they've had Betty 4 years, maybe 5 years now, and she's the most wonderful little thing. And so I really enjoy drinking out of my Betty mug because it reminds me every time not to make any judgments before I've got all the facts. Anyway, I just drifted off there. Every time I do a video, I'll have a different mug. I'll probably drink a different thing. At the minute, that was coffee. It was an instant coffee, which is quite rare for me. But I'll talk about my different coffees as the time goes by. So in this first video, which I'm hoping will end up, between 15 and 20 minutes after I've edited it, I'm going to talk about the planning stages that I went through as I was considering retirement. The second video will almost certainly be focusing on finance, because that is a very big consideration when you're coming up to retirement. You've got to be able to support yourself if you're no longer getting a salary. So my second video will be about finance. And then my third video, probably, I like to plan ahead, ex-soldier and all that. My third video will probably be about the hobbies that I've taken up and how I've supported them, funded them, how much time they take, how important they are. So there you go. So this one will be about planning, because prior planning and preparation prevents poor performance, as any ex-soldier will tell you. There are different versions of that, but we'll stick with that for now. So let's think about it. Planning for retirement. I would say, to be not too dramatic, because I retired at 66, because that was when my state pension became payable. Depending on when you're watching this, that might be now 67, 68, 75, or never. But I got it at 66, and I started work straight out of school. I actually went to an Army Apprentices College. I'll talk more about that if anyone wants to ask me, but it's not that relevant. I suppose it is, really. I went to an Army Apprentices College when I was 16. And that was when I started preparing for retirement. I didn't have great vision. In fact, I knew nothing when I was 16. But of course, what happened was, being in the public sector, I started paying into a pension. And that, of course, is the first steps towards retirement. At that stage, I was paying into the public sector pension scheme, whatever it was called at the time. And also, of course, I was paying national insurance. So I was paying into the state pension. And that would have been it at the time. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what a pension was. But that's when you start. Your first steps towards retirement are when you start making those very early contributions. So from 50 years ago, and of course, as anyone will know, the contributions go up and down with the vicissitudes of life. As a young person, you're thinking, why on earth am I doing this? You know, I'm going to live forever, work till I'm 90, or I'm going to win the pools as it would have been then, win the lottery now, and retire as a millionaire when I'm 30. But of course, you continue to pay it. Your life changes, your job changes, your circumstances change. You find yourself married, you find yourself with kids, you find yourself with a mortgage, so payments go up and down. But you should listen to people who go before, you know, your parents, others, mentors, if you have such a thing, and if you're lucky to have a mentor who you can talk to throughout your life, and keep up these payments, because as you get older, they become a lot more important to you, and you become smugger and much more intolerable when you keep telling people that you've been paying into a pension since you were 16, and you're going to be able to have quite a comfortable retirement and not die in a ditch. So anyway, I'm going to try to do this chronologically. So I started there with a notional 50 years ago, which is a bit daft. But there is a saying which is, when is the best time to start a pension? And the answer was yesterday. But of course, that's not, if you're watching this, you've probably been sent here by a Yahoo algorithm because you've watched other things to do with pensions in the past. So the chances are that you're something like my age, so either coming up to retirement age, early retirement now. So it's too late now to tell you to start paying into a pension, but you should, if you can, pass on that wisdom to those that come behind. So what other things did I do this time? Real things when I was actually thinking about retiring, because my wife and I started thinking about it properly, probably over the last 5 or 6 years, because of course, when she started paying into a pension, she had every expectation that she'd be receiving a state pension at 60. But all that went a bit wrong in the intervening years. But we've been thinking probably since she was about 60, what we're going to do when it comes, how we're going to afford it, etc., and what are we going to do. So as I say, next video, I'll go into the whole finance thing with a bit more detail, because that's very important and it's a little bit dry, but I'll put that into a separate video, and that will be coming shortly. I just put in what appears to be sort of a mandatory public information bulletin here. When you're watching a YouTube channel, if you press the down button, you get a whole load of symbols at the bottom of the screen. And one of the big ones in the middle says subscribe. If you could press that, that means that you'll be notified every time I put a new video up and you won't miss anything. It's completely free. It's not like when I was a kid, and if you subscribed to a magazine or to a newspaper, it meant that you paid for it weekly and probably had it delivered to the door or whatever. That sense of the word seems to have changed a lot now. Subscribing simply means to follow, I suppose. There's also a thumbs up button if you like what's going on, and there's a contact button. So if you want to talk to me about anything, oh, excuse me, I just realized I put my thumb in the shop for a second. If you want to talk to me about anything, press the comment button and just say, Keith, how did you do this? When did you realize you were going to do that? And I can get back. It's an email thing. But given that this is my first ever video, if you're quick and you hit the contact button, you can be my first ever messenger. And there's no prizes for it. But you should really try to do it, because it'll be a great thing. And you'll have to get in quick, because I'm sure one of my kids will otherwise. So in the last few years, we started talking about retiring. And so I started thinking about, well, what am I going to do with the time? Once we'd realized that we could live on a pension, I realized, whoa, I'm not going to have to get up every morning and go into work. So what will I do? So I set in train a few things that because I knew, luckily I knew that I was going to get my state pension at age 66, and I'm clever enough now to know when my birthday is, so I was able to know exactly when I was going to retire. So I was able to do a countdown, if you like, and I started to think, right, what am I going to do? So I looked at a number of different things, and I'll tell you what they are now. The first thing was about doing a voluntary job. I've done lots of different jobs in my time. I've been in the public sector, as I said. I was a soldier for a while. I've been a policeman for a while. I've worked in the private sector, in essentially what was the fireworks industry, pyrotechnics, etc. And I've worked in the voluntary sector. The last 25 years of my working life, I think, was in the voluntary sector. So I've done a great deal of things. I've done a lot of other voluntary jobs in the sense that I've been a school governor, I've been a college governor, lots of different things. I've been a local councillor. So doing these sort of what were then extracurricular and now was going to be, is curricular, all it? Now going to be the mainstay of the time. So I looked into doing a voluntary role and sifted through quite a few of them and landed on one, which I won't say what it is because I haven't checked with the people that I volunteer for that they're happy for me to talk about it. And you know, got to show a bit of respect. But I knew that it required some training and, you know, they wanted to vet, I suppose, do a sift, interview, things like that. So a couple of years ago, I started looking into this. And the way things go, of course, and post-COVID, everything's a bit slower. So I started looking into this voluntary job, and that came through, as I say, I retired in August 2025, and I think I had my first shift for my voluntary role in September 24. So it came through a little bit faster than I thought it would, but I was able to, you know, weave them in because you can pick and choose your times to some extent. So I've been doing that for about a year now, just over a year. And although I do, let's call it a day a week. Some weeks I've done 2 days, but some weeks I've done no days. So I do about a day a week. There was training, etc. And I'm very much enjoying that. And it gives me a bit of purpose as well. And it gives me time out of the house, other people to talk to, listen to other people, what do they do? Because of course, a lot of volunteers are retirees. So it gives you a chance to say, well, what was it you used to do and how long have you been retired and how long have you been doing this? And all of those conversations, which you don't realize how interesting they are and how much you miss chatting to people outside of the house, even though when you're doing it, you know, these water cooler moments, as they call them, they can get under your skin a bit at the time. But I'm very glad that I've done this anyway. So that was one of the first things that I did in terms of preparing for my retirement. Another couple that I did, well, strangely, about the same time, about 2 years ago, I took out magazine subscriptions. I hadn't had magazine subscriptions, oh, I don't know, since I paid for the Dandy and had it delivered from the corner shop or whatever. Years and years. But I thought, no, it'll give me something tangible to read. I do a lot of reading, but it's all screen stuff, and I wanted to get away from that a little bit. So I took out a couple of magazine subscriptions. Actually, I have, if you excuse me, the two magazines that I subscribe to are the BBC History magazine, because I like history, and as you can see, this one's about 1066 and all that. And I also subscribe to this, which is called Yours Retro, and this is basically about old TV and movies. It's a W.H. Smith's magazine. You can get both of these from anywhere. And I'm not telling you what I subscribe to in any way of suggesting you take out subscriptions and I get a kickback or anything like that. It's nothing like that. I'm simply saying that I took a couple of subscriptions. They both come monthly, and I managed to read them both cover to cover in the month that they're here. And I'm very, very glad I did, because again, it gives me new things to look into. And I always end up Googling something out of the history mag, or Googling an old program, or going on to, what's it called, YouTube? Going onto YouTube and seeing if they've got an episode of a TV program that they talk about. So it's just about, you know, having interests and keeping your mind active. And I'm very glad that I did that. I also took up a hobby, strangely enough, and I'll talk more about this as time passes, and I'll show you how I do it and what tools I need, etc. But what I did was, we've been going on holiday for the last few years, 10 or so, down to the Jurassic Coast in Dorset. So you're talking Lyme Regis and all around there. And it's a wonderful place for many, many reasons. But the beach down there is quite literally littered with fossils. Now, a lot of these are just small ammonites, things called belemnites. I won't bore you with details. But also, you get a rock, imagine the size of about a grapefruit, an orange. And they're usually round and grey. That's why I say grapefruit. And with a bit of being taught and a couple of simple tools, you can crack these rocks open. And inside, you often find fossils. And this is one that I'm working on now. And these fossils, so that was a circular rock about a week ago. I cracked it open. That's inside, and I'm busy cleaning it up. It's called preparing fossils. And that's a great hobby that I have, and I might be able to, I've just stuck my hand in the camera again, it might actually answer one of the questions that I would have if I was watching this video, which is, why am I sitting inside a plastic sheet? Those of you that ever watched the American TV series Dexter, no, don't think down those roads. I'm currently in a log cabin in the garden, and this is where I do my hobby. The thing is, if you think about it, it's a rock, and so I've got to chip away that rock. It's actually called matrix when it's in a rock with a fossil. So you've got to chip away that matrix, and it makes an incredible amount of dust. So after having had to clean this place 2 or 3 times because everything had an inch of dust on it, I thought, oh, I've had enough of this. So I've created a little sort of box around myself of thick polythene, and so I keep the dust just more or less on myself, and I can just use Henry to give things a quick dusting. So I'm talking about how I started it. So I went down, loved collecting fossils. My eldest son is very interested in this as well, and he's very big on things to do with fossils and crystals and amethysts and all things prehistoric. So we were doing this together, and while I was down there last year, I went on a short 1-day course, which are already available in the region, with a guy called Fossil Academy, who was absolutely wonderful. That does sound like I'm endorsing him, but I'm not getting any kickback from him. But he was terrific, and he really lit the fuse. And I came back and bought a few tools, and you can send away for rocks. You don't have to drive to Dorset and find them and collect them and bring them back. They're actually online if you just Google, I don't know, fossil rocks or something. I've got some from Yorkshire Fossils, I think they were called, and somebody from Fossils Online. And so you buy a box of 10, they're not much, £5 each maybe. Box arrives at the door, and it's as good as having been away for a fortnight for the amount that you get. And then I can sit here in my own time, in my own garden, and open these, and everyone's like a new surprise. It's wonderful. And then I start preparing them. I don't do it, I don't sell them. I've got one on the mantelpiece in the kitchen. I've got one as the thumbnail for this channel. The channel, of course, is called Recently Retired because that's what it's about, and that's what I'm hoping people will search and they'll pick it up. But that little avatar, if you like, is an imperfect fossil. You can see it. It's an ammonite, which is the, looks like a cinnamon swirl sort of thing, but it's got that little line across the top, makes it look like an eyebrow, which is where the ammonite didn't fossilize perfectly, but I think it does represent me to some extent, because I'm a bit of a fossil, and the imperfection just lets you know, gives you a flavor of what this whole channel is going to be about. And so finally, the last bit of preparation that I did for coming into retirement was just this year. So as I say, we're coming to the end of 25. I retired in April 25, but in June 25, I bought, ostensibly for my wife, but how many of us have bought things for our wife that we've kept an eye on ourselves? And so I bought the rudiments of what you would need to make a YouTube channel. So just what's called a gimbal, which is it's not rude. It's like a stick. You put your phone in it, and if you walk with it and do one of these walking videos, which is what my wife intends to do, it takes the bounce out of your filming. So everything's a lot steadier, and you don't feel seasick at the end of it. And I also bought her a ring light, which I'm sitting in front of now, and a phone holder, and a tripod, and blah, 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 blah. And since then, I've been looking at how to do editing on the video, because these last 24 minutes and 51 seconds have just been a single take. But when I finish this, I can take it away, put it through some free editing software, and once I've taken out all the ums and ahs and the bit where I scratch my ear or whatever, you're probably going to end up with 15 minutes or so of watchable content. I'm going to draw this to a close now because I've come to the end of the non-financial preparation. So don't forget, video number 2 is going to be about finances. I'm not a financial expert. It won't be the sort of advice that you can take away and put your life savings on. I promise you that. It'll just be the sort of thing that if you were talking with someone over a cup of coffee, they'll say, have you thought about that? And that's all it is. I'm no financial expert. In fact, my wife would say I'm a bit of a little bit backward in that area, to be honest, but it's something that is so important I feel I will have to talk. So I'm going now. I've just stuck my hand in the camera again. I'll be editing that out. So it's time to finish this video. Please, if you've liked it, go down below, press subscribe so that can follow me entirely free, and give me a like and a comment. Comments would be fantastic. It would let me know that I was hitting the right buttons and I was talking about things that you're interested in. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening and for sticking to the end, and I'll see you next time. Bye.